How's it going, everybody? Today I have a kind of cool video here. Um, you've probably seen this on the live stream. I've been working on this movie, um, and I've been working with Raymond Charles. I'll link it in the description for his channel. And he said I can share the storyboards for the movie. So this one right here is actually panel 15 and 16. But what I do to kind of save time is that I'll save each panel, or each page rather, and then redraw the panels. So uh, as you can see here, 16 is actually this one down here. So I'll kind of zoom in here. This is 16. This is 16 right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to erase certain things because the background still stays the same. So I will lower the opacity on that and lower the opacity here. And now you're just left with just the characters. Now, I don't really want to get rid of the characters because I can reuse them in a later scene. But by getting rid of them, I'll have a blank canvas to work with. So this is where we're going to zoom in. Panel 17. Just enough so you can still see this area here. So I'm going to do a new layer. And yeah, so you see I can draw on it without having to worry about the background. And we're going to clear that out. So panel 17 is going to be the officer here looking through the wooded area. So that's what we're going to draw. Obviously, because I'm not going to speed it up, it could seem like it's taking forever, but that's okay. I got to lower this brush size a little bit here. So his head's here. And what we can do, I'm going to add like a little bush here, so it looks like he's looking through the bushes. So then the officer, and Officer Cook is the one with the hat. So we're going to keep the hat on him. And in that second, the next frame, we're actually going to use the same thing. So I'm going to keep the other officer on the ground because he's going to be saying, oh, he got away. So that's, I don't want to give too much of the story away. But still following the same storylines of the storyboard here. So then what I'm going to add here is like some bushes. Obviously that looks bad, but and I always sketch it out before I go to a final, even in the storyboard phase, because storyboards don't have to look, amazing. They just have to kind of convey what the story's about at that moment. So that's there, and then a little hand kind of showing him going through the bush. The one thing I do love about doing storyboards is that it's a lot like comics. The only difference is that you're not having really to worry too much about word bubbles or word balloons. You'll just be focusing on conveying the story. So you're still telling a story, but it tends to be a little bit harder because you're telling the story from without words. So you have to make sure that what you're drawing makes sense to the actors that are going to see it, the director. Every movie's a little different. Some directors like the actors to see the storyboards. And then here I'm going to draw another layer to kind of show, the limbs of the trees that he's kind of moving out of the way. And we're going to black this area out here. But we can keep the basic background in there. Now, obviously, this isn't going to look super detailed right now because this is still a sketch layer. My hands are a little wet, so you don't want to glide too much on the drawing tablet here. So just adding like a whole nother tree It's similar to video games, where in video games there's assets in front of assets, so some things don't move. Obviously, the background's going to be static right now, so we're just adding another layer so it looks like a different part of the forest here. And then, like I said, this is going to be all blacked out. So we got to make sure that this area kind of gets covered up really well. So the sketch here, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. The sketch here, I'm just going to lower the um, opacity on, and then I'm just going to grab my thin pencil here and just start sketching him out. Nothing crazy. Like I said, it's not going to be super detailed. Um, because another reason why you don't want it to be detailed is if the director, at, in this case, it's Ray, who's a good friend of mine. If he's like, I like this scene, but let's do these changes. You don't want to spend a tremendous amount of time on something if you're going to change it. So it's nice to go back and be able to make a couple little changes here. But here, this is the basic of the shape. The basic shape of the character's head. Oh, I can't even talk today. Uh, this is one of the hardest things about. Excuse me. Wow. I am losing my voice. It's cracking and going everywhere. But yeah, this is where I love my fill-in tool. Most likely there's going to be a spot. Oh, first shot. Look at that. That never works the first time. That fill-in tool is awesome. It saves so much time having to go back and redo something. And what I did with the police officers is that I kind of gave them a lot of heavy equipment. So that could be another reason why they're falling all over the place and not able to run after our perp. And this hand here, which you saw I kind of had to redraw a couple times. One finger, two fingers, three finger, four. And the thumb. That's a misconception a lot of people don't know. The thumb is a digit, but it is not a finger. You can hear my voice cracking. Those little pops. I think it's just a leftover from when I ever since I've had my tonsil removed as a kid, like my voice cracks. And you don't hear it too much in live streams because I use a different microphone for live streams, but here this thing picks up everything. So you're going to hear all the fun little things in my voice. So that looks good. It looks like a man from the back. Not much else there. So now we can kind of get rid of that and work on this. So I am going to grab a little bit bigger of a pencil and up the opacity here and add another layer. So it looks like the bush that he's going through with some branches. He kind of found a secret passageway. And what's nice about this pencil is that it kind of gives it this cool Japanese water brush effect. And this doesn't have to be super detailed because what we're going to do now is underneath these two layers, I am going to add some grays. So under the police officer, use the selection tool here, the lasso, and just kind of grab all of him underneath. And don't worry about making mistakes here because you can fix them. Oh man, it's got to be my nap after, because after school I take a nap because I stay up so late working on projects and stuff. So when I take these naps, like it just screws with my voice. All right, so I'm gonna grab kind of like a, there we go. And just fix any areas that you missed and erase any areas that kind of got out of the lines here. One of the things I always tell my students when I was teaching at the art stop is a nice little relaxation tool and practice technique is to grab a coloring book. It could be a cheapy one. It doesn't have to be one of those adult coloring books. And use that to practice staying in the lines, and it's very relaxing. The reason why I picked a different blue here or a different gray is what we want to do is kind of separate this from the background layer. Since the background layer is already gray as it is, just getting that little hint of blue in there really makes it stand out from the back. If you don't want to use blue, you can use like a grayish red or any color that's gonna really make it seem like it's popping out from the background. And as you can see, the transparency there, because I am using the pencil and not the lasso, but it was such a big area that I felt, you know, why not? And then add some highlights and shadows. That's important to make it look like it's not a flat image. So then I'm going to multiply this layer just so that it's a solid color. And now lock the transparency on it, and we're going to add those highlights and shadows with the same pencil. It doesn't have to be super intuitive here. I'll lower the opacity a little bit, just to show where the light's coming from, because obviously the police officer is where the most light is coming from. And then the police officer, well, I didn't lock it. See, everyone makes mistakes. You can't beat yourself up. Just correct it and move forward. You see how just adding the little bits of light there really already make it pop. You can even add a little bit here to the face, because even though the light's not coming from this direction, you know, reflections and whatever reflective stuff the police officer's wearing. So we're gonna grab from there and then just move slightly over on the color wheel and go a little darker. And it just adds that nice little shadow. And we want to make it a little bit bigger just to grab this whole area. It's a lot of experimentation. This took me a while to kind of get used to, because I either used to work with sketching stuff right away or just going straight into a finished piece, especially in comics. Same thing here. We're gonna go a little bit darker because this, remember, this area here is gonna be blacked out. So black out this area. Now here is where the magic happens. I'm going to take this and combine the two, duplicate the layer, and then with this tool here, we're going to grab that duplicate. Obviously it looks a little wonky right now, but and move it to the background so it looks like there's a lot of them. Whoa! It's one of the bad things about, there we go. And you can even lower the opacity just a little bit, just so it looks further away. The further you get, the more detail you lose. And then here is where we're going to add those blacks. So I'm going to go behind it, and I'm going to grab this tool here. It's the selection tool. And right where that tree begins, now we're going to grab a black. It doesn't have to be black. It can be kind of black, like a grayish tone. And just lower that opacity just a little bit. So it looks like he's looking through a whole different section. It's those little things that you can really mess around with. And here, I gotta fix this here. It's coming out of the panel. You kind of lose the magic when it comes out the panel. Oh, wrong one. Alright. Just erase that. You could use the ruler tool to erase too, so that way you don't get rid of any of this image. Now watch what happens when I bring back that background and bring it back. Now it looks like he's looking through a completely different side of the trees. It's not super intuitive and it's not going to be super detailed. Excuse me. So now we can move on to panel 18, which I have grouped into 2 different groups here. So group 1 is panel 17 and now group 2 is panel 18. So now we can move down. So these 2 police officers are gonna be moved. They're 2 different layers. So watch what happens when I grab these 2 guys and move them around. See, I can move them out of the frame, and I can make him bigger, smaller. So now I can make armies of him, but yeah, we're not going to do that. I'm just going to move him right back. I'm just going to make him disappear though. So we're going to get rid of him. This officer is staying there, but we need to move him out of the way. So I'm going to just move him slightly over, and his shadow is going to follow him. So he's going to be a little bit bigger. Turn him just slightly. You know that saying, work smarter, not harder. Same thing applies to art. So you're not redrawing the same stuff over and over. You just move your stuff around. So here's where I can fix a couple little things, because now that he is bigger, you do see some of the mistakes. So I'm just going to fix some of those areas that I got out of the line and then lock it again. And in this panel, panel 18, the other police officer that looked through the bush, he's coming back, and this guy right here is going to say, got away. So, all right, so here we're going to be drawing the other officer coming in, and according to panel 18, we have officer coming in a profile out of the woods. So we don't really have to draw it because this area here, oh, yeah, my mistake. This area here is going to be where this officer is going to be coming out of. So same thing. We're going to use that same pencil. Obviously, I'm going to make it a little smaller and lower the opacity quite a bit because I'm going to sketch him out and just draw him here. And obviously you can make it fit the frame. I just like it to look proportionate to this guy right here. So he's going to extend his hand, and then right here we're going to just kind of fit him into frame. I'm just sketching it out. He's got his hand outstretched to try and help him up. And this is where it's going to deviate a little bit from the thumbnail that I did, because I'm not really going to do much with this guy right here. I'm going to leave him there. This officer is just kind of helping him up. And then I'm going to add, because you don't have to add word balloons, but it's just a good reference point for the director, because sometimes the panels can look very similar, especially since I'm using a lot of the same backgrounds. So here is where I'm going to just kind of distort it. Just make them fit a little bit better. And you can zoom in at will. So here I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here. I know the camera is... I moved it to this side because I noticed a lot of my tools I tend to open up over here. So here, just going to see these circles here kind of signify the legs. And also deviating from the thumbnail, because I am doing kind of like a quarter view, and this is the officer who still has the hat. So I'm gonna draw the hat, and this is where you can kind of fix the proportions, because the top half still looks a little bigger. And just start drawing it in. Nothing too crazy, because like I said, this is just the sketch. It kind of helps me map things out. There we go. And hand outstretched. Add the gun, so the gun would be on the right side, and then handcuffs and what have you. So now I'm just going to lower the opacity on that, put another layer over it. Same pencil, we're just going to make it just a little thicker, and also with a little bit more opacity. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here and just draw them in. And this should be the end of panel 18 once I add the grays underneath him. And then I have to do another conference call with Ray about the next few panels. This particular scene, because it's still considered one scene, this whole wooded area, so it has taken up quite a bit of panels. And you don't really have to add a lot of detail. I'm just going to put the nose, eyes. Bulletproof vest, because they came in with their guns drawn. Officers aren't gonna not wear protective clothing if they don't have their weapons ready. Pouches, very 90s pouches. It's a comic book reference. Only hardcore comic fans from the 90s will get that reference. It's very Liefeld inspired pouches here. And then we're going to add the arm here. That sketch is really bad, but try to toughen it out here with the... Yeah, that's really bad. Sometimes I don't like how something's coming out. I will redraw it a couple times. And that's much better. And like most cops do, they kind of hold their belt, because my cousin is a SWAT member, and he told me when he first joined SWAT, he would wear all his gear and run around with it just to get used to the weight. And he said that he would hold his belt all the time whenever he was talking to somebody who he pulled over, because SWAT's not always on call or on the road. So, when they're not on the road, they're just doing regular, pulling people over and whatnot. So he was just like, I would hold my belt. It just helps kind of with the weight of all the gear that you're wearing. I gotta fix this here. You guys get to see all my mistakes. All right, so make him hold it there. So nothing too crazy, because like I said, this is more of a reference to everything here. And then get rid of that layer. Multiply this a little bit. Just make it a little darker. And then kind of finish off all the lines that I didn't finish on that big sketch, and fix all the proportions. And since it is a forest, I'm going to add some deep shadows. So when I do add the shadows with color, or the monochromatic color, it kind of adds to the environment. And now, same thing as I did on panel 1, I'm going to grab that lasso tool and just add the gray behind him. It's a little bit wonky, but that's okay. It's not like it's a finished picture. it just has to tell the story of what's going on, and that word bubble is kind of really gonna tell the story itself. So now you grab the fill-in tool. We're gonna go with a lighter gray and just fix those areas that where it blew out. Because I have the fill-in tool set to a higher volume, so it will fill in more area than you need. I think I missed a spot here, and I went a little bit over there. And you can correct those things with the pencil. And I'm going to multiply that just so that there's no blowout areas, and lock it. And this is where you're going to add some of your highlights with the same tool. So shadows first. And in the face and hat. So that is filled in there. I gotta get my chair fixed. It's so creaky. Even when I do live streams, you can hear it, and it just bothers me because I like it to be quiet. This is why I don't even run my dehumidifier half the time, because it's really loud. And then we'll go with the highlights. So just a little bit more than that. And a little bit on the eyes. And a little bit on the side there. Because, you know, there's going to be light coming from different sources, so. And he is finished. So now we're going to add the word balloon. So this is where the lasso tool really comes into play, because you can make the shape. So I'm going to make shape there. Oh, that looks really bad. So if that's not working for you, you can always just go to a regular shape tool, and we're going to make the line black. It escaped from me. That's a little too big. And you can move it at will, so I'm going to move it down by this guy here, and then grab the line tool and now you have a word balloon. It's not the best word balloon, but it gets the job done. So then fill that in with white, and just for the purposes of being legible, because if you do use a text layer and you type it, sometimes it goes past it, and we don't want that. So I am going to make another layer, and just going to write got. Well, you know what? I know I put got away, but you know, now there's more space, so just put did he get away. So there you go. And that is panel 17 and 18 of Presumed Guilty, which is a movie that Raymond Charles is doing. I am doing the storyboards for. So I hope you enjoyed that video about me doing these storyboards. I wanted to record the whole thing, but I don't want to give the movie away. I did a live stream about a week ago, so you can check that out. I'll try to put it in the cards here somewhere in the video. But here you get to see the two panels being made and using the background from the last video. And this is what it's going to look like once everything is brought up. So you see it really comes to life once the background's in there fully and everything. So Thank you everybody for watching, and as always, don't forget to keep it over 9,000. Take care.